So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Holyoke School Committee meeting. It's Monday, April 26th. Meeting will start at 6:01 p.m. Ms. LaFond, roll call, please. You're on mute, Ms. LaFond.
A tricky little microphone. Mayor McGee? Miss LaFave?
Wrong mayor.
Yeah, it should be Mayor Murphy.
Mayor Murphy? Good thing he's not here. I'm getting old. Mayor Murphy. Miss LaFave.
Present.
Mr. Sheehan.
Present.
Miss Brunel. Miss Tensley Williams.
Present.
Thank you. Mrs. Burks.
Present.
Miss Feliciano Sims. Mr. Wellahan.
Here.
Mr. Collymore. Mr. Cushane.
Present.
I don't see Sade Mota. Sade, are you there? Sam Brennan? Not yet.
So I see that we have also, Erin is under attendees.
There she is. She just came in. Yeah, got her.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah, and I don't see them.
Thank you. And you also see if folks from the high school team are here.
So we have Al Gates, Lori McKenna. We have Lori Dennis, Marianne Courier's here, Val's here.
Okay, good.
And Mahoney and Tiffany. So whenever you want them, let me know and we'll bring them forward. Just tell me.
Okay, so we're good with roll call, and Miss Brunel, you were able to get for the roll call?
If you need me to officially say I'm here, I'm here.
Yes, yes. Sorry, Irene. Sorry, Mildred. I'm muted again.
That's okay. All right, so I'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Cushane, for bringing the flag. I didn't see it until the end.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So just really quickly, pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 20, I'm hereby informing all attendees that a video and audio recording is being made of the meeting, and the meeting is being live streamed and run live on the city's community TV channel. And we're also doing interpretation, correct? Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
Okay. Also, just a friendly reminder, if you have any questions or comments to make, please make sure to use the raise hand icon. I will be monitoring that. If you are not on the school committee or a student rep or Ms. LaFond or the receiver / superintendent, please make sure to have your cameras off until you are up for your portion of the meeting. And I want to just remind everyone to maintain their mute button or maintain muted unless they're speaking, so that way we don't have that background noise. Before I move forward to what's on the agenda, I would like to take a moment of silence, just pay our respects as we lost one of Holyoke's finest, Mrs. Burks, on April 18th. She was really a true champion for public education, and she will be greatly missed. So with that said, moment of silence, please. Mrs. Burks, did you want to share something?
So on behalf of Dennis, Buddy, Maya, Ari, and myself, and our extended family, we'd just like to say thank you to the Holyoke community for all the condolences, the prayers, and all the love that we felt over the last week. You know, she was little, but she was fierce. She was a strong, strong supporter of the Holyoke Public Schools and education in general, and special education especially. She gave voices to people that didn't feel they had voices, and gave us the strength to help others. And she leaves a legacy that is large. And we just wanted to take a moment to say thank you to everybody for all of the support.
Thank you so much, Ms. Burks. And again, we extend our deepest condolences and prayers to you and your family. We're going to move forward with the student showcase, and I just need clarification. For the student showcase, I have here Dean School students. Do we have Dean School students here for the student showcase portion? Because
Yeah, I wanted to apologize. We had a sophomore student from the Dean campus lined up. He's been working closely with one of our teachers, Jose Pedraza, around our social media outreach and communications and just campus communication with the students. And he's been doing an amazing job. Unfortunately, he was unable to attend today. So we are looking to see if he would be willing to come to a future school committee meeting. I know how important these student showcases are, and we definitely wanted to showcase that student, but unfortunately he was not able to attend today, and we got the notice today.
Okay, thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure. I didn't want to miss anyone. Next item on the agenda is public comment, and we did receive, I'm looking it up, I know I did receive one, but I believe I received another. Okay. So I have the second one. So I'm going to read the first one. So it starts off with, to whom it may concern. This comes from Mr. and Mrs. Marcus and Carrie. And I apologize if I pronounce it wrong. Humber. We are the parents of a second grader at Mcas Elementary and a fifth grader at Mcas Middle. We are thankful for the wonderful education that our children are receiving through the Holyoke Public School System. We are writing today about our concern with the 2021-2022 school calendar, specifically the early start date. We feel that school staff, students, and families have been enormously impacted by the pandemic, and it is in everyone's interest to have school start when it traditionally has during the last week of August. This school year has been grueling for school staff. Every aspect of education needed to be adjusted to meet the restrictions of the pandemic. Most school employees have never been more emotionally, physically, and mentally exhausted than they have been during this year. School staff need the additional week to recharge and take care of themselves before returning to professional development and school days. This especially applies to teachers new to Holyoke and those teachers who are working summer school programs, as their days this summer will be even more limited. The 2021-2022 school year will be different than this one, but just as challenging. School staff will be tasked with trying to close the academic gap left by the pandemic while also supporting the growing emotional needs of our students. School staff will need to be innovative with their scheduling, curriculum, and interactions to tackle this monumental task. Students have also been severely impacted by the pandemic. Instruction came for most of the year in the form of virtual learning, which was difficult for many. This summer, students need time away from the screens to recharge and to socially connect with family and friends. We realize that the district wants to get students back in the classroom to work on academics. However, one more week of summer will not significantly impact their academics negatively, but could have a huge positive impact on their mental health. Lastly, almost all families have been impacted by the pandemic. Stresses have been coming in all shapes and sizes: financial, childcare, health, etc. Families have had to make countless adjustments and sacrifices during this year. One common sacrifice made by many families has been spending time with friends and family who live both near and far. This summer is an opportunity for families to reconnect with people who are important in their lives that they have refrained from seeing for the safety of our community. Some of these events and trips have been planned for many months, and announcing the school calendar in April did not allow families to schedule these important events appropriately. Families also need consistency, and the early start date would increase the chances days off due to heat, as happened 2 years ago. It would be difficult for families to start off the new year scrambling for childcare and teachers to establish routines and procedures. As members of our school community, I know that you are aware of everything mentioned above. We ask you to reconsider the calendar for the 2021-2022 year based on the difficulties of the last year. We understand that changes sometimes need to be made. However, wait until the following school year when families have begun to recover from the effects of the pandemic and when appropriate notice can be given. Sincerely, Marcus and Carrie Humber. And then the next one that I received is from another parent, Marissa Bruce Haber. I hope I said it right. I get some feedback from on him. I have a first grader with ADHD. She loves science and hands-on learning and has had a hard time staying engaged during remote learning. And my husband and I feared her having difficulties in the first grade classroom even before the pandemic began. I know that the older kids have the Pathways program to get engaged in hand-on type learning opportunities, but what is available for the younger ones who learn differently? Is school choice an option for her if Holyoke doesn't have a hands-on STEM science type outdoor education available so she can reach her full potential? That was our second, I'm sorry. So those are the two that we received for public comment. And I know that we will be discussing the calendar later on in the agenda, and also I believe curriculum based, right? Mr. Soto, we're going to be talking about the summer programming or something. I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Sorry, we didn't have summer programming as part of the agenda for this time around.
Okay.
But it is something that we could discuss at the next meeting. Okay,
great.
Just let me know, Anthony, when you want me to share this.
On Mildred's call.
Oh, so really quickly, I know we're moving on to the next, which is communications and reports. And I just want to give a quick report on my behalf. Just want to make everyone aware that I have issued my own personal statement on my own social media page in response to a comment that was made by a board member from the elementary and secondary education at an April 18th meeting. The comment that was made was based off of a recommendation for the commissioner to refrain from placing other districts into level 5. So kind of using the accountability system for the 2020-2021 school year. This is not a topic for discussion. It's not a topic for comment. If you are interested in knowing what exactly was said, by all means, you can watch the video that is on the DESE site for the April 20th meeting. And if you want to know what my statement is, you can check my social media page. But that is all for that. We cannot move forward on discussion of this at all. So I apologize for that. So we are moving forward on to, okay, student reports. So Dean campus students request to speak. Are they here? Or are they here?
Mr. Gates?
Mr. Gates.
So, yeah, I had heard that there were Dean campus students, but that was all that I heard. I was not aware of any students that were coming here to speak this evening. So if they're not here or present, then I believe, I don't know where that came from, but there was nothing that I was aware of.
Okay. So I do know that after I will be requesting a report from Ms. Burks on the update for the committee on the graduation activities for Dean and Holyoke High. So I know we'll get some information from that, but I do have a question from Mr. Sheehan.
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering where that came from then. I know it was on I believe it was also on the last agenda. Like it just seems odd. Were there 2 weeks of miscommunication or? I just wonder how agenda items got put on that they were put on somehow.
Right. Yeah. I'm not sure if there's more information.
That was directed towards Ms. LaFave, I think.
So they had requested a couple months ago to come before the school committee because it was about Dean students having their own identity and they wanted to have their own graduation. A graduation committee was formed and I received interest of who would have liked to participate on that from the board. From there, I appointed Ms. Burks to it as she had done a phenomenal job with last year and was very involved with the 2020 graduates, the class of 2020. So I know that there were still some pending questions from the students, and I believe I had seen some other questions that they had about senior activities, and they really wanted some answers. So this was kind of like the platform for them to come. I know that they are happy that they're going to have their own graduation and be celebrating it with their colors. So I guess it's my own miscommunication and I should have maybe reached out to Mr. Gates. So I apologize, that's on me. But if they do want to come, Mr. Gates, at any point, by all means, they are more than welcome. Just let me know so that I can put them onto the agenda and make sure that we give them their time so that they can speak to us.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Ms. LaFave. They appreciated having the opportunity at the last meeting, so.
Okay, thank you so much. And again, I apologize for the whole mix up. So I guess we will then move on to Mr. Soto with the superintendent receiver reports.
Thank you, Ms. LaFave. And on that, previous topic, I think the reason no students are here today is because of the good work that committee has been doing with Ms. Burks. We have involved a lot of students, and I think the Dean campus has been doing a great job with communicating everything that's been coming out of those committees. So they're probably likely satisfied with some of the communication that has come from Al Gates and his team around year-end activities and graduation. Before we get into everything that's on the first slide,
I'm trying, Anthony.
You can put it up, please. I did want to give the committee an update included in your packet. We did provide an update on the middle school building. Had some great news. We had a meeting on April 14th, and the MSBA had reviewed our statement of interest and invited us to participate into the eligibility period, which is great. It's a huge milestone for Holyoke. We had a ton of representation at the meeting, and I want to thank everybody who attended. We had Senator Velas, Rep. Pat Duffy, our acting mayor, Terry Murphy. We had city councilors McGee, Lisi, Mike Sullivan, Peter Tallman, school committee members, Mildred Lefebvre and Devin Sheehan. And I apologize if I missed anyone else, but we had about 14 people attend that meeting, and it was great to see so many different individuals come out in support of the project. We all know how important this project is for Holyoke and what it means to our kids. So I really just want to extend my gratitude and thanks to all of those that have been working diligently on moving this project forward. And I think this is a great milestone for Holyoke in regards to us being able to get a new middle school building and also move towards the elementary, middle, high school, which has been something that we have been talking about for many years now. So today we're going to provide an update on the return to school. We'll provide an update on Mcas and standardized testing, our graduation committee and our graduation and end of year activities, which we just talked about, and we'll provide an update on, some of the health metrics that we regularly review. So we're happy to report that we have about 55% of our pre-K to 5 students are in person. And overall, it's been a huge success. I had the opportunity to walk a lot of our schools and welcome many of our students. And it's just been amazing to see, some of the students haven't stepped foot in well over a year into their school, and by the fall of next year, some students that are remote, it would be about a year and a half that they haven't actually stepped foot into their school building. So it was really exciting to see all of the staff returning to in-person, all of the students returning to in-person. And again, we're in our elementary grades from pre-K to 5, we're at about 55%. And of those students, they're going 5 days a week. Some of the challenges that we have had, as I mentioned the last time we met, definitely lunch and breakfast being 6 feet apart. That has posed a challenge, particularly at some schools that are above our average is 55%, but there's some schools that are, almost 79%, and other schools that just have spacing issues and smaller classrooms, which makes it really difficult to do breakfast in the classroom. Those were some of the biggest challenges, but definitely excited to report that that we've been able to overcome those. And many of our schools are just doing are able to accommodate our principals have done a great job, and teachers have done a great job just being creative with how they use other spaces, how they're using their cafeterias, how they're using their outdoor spaces. And just, it's been amazing to see the flexibility that our staff have just been practicing to make sure that this can happen. And as everyone knows, live streaming teaching has also been a huge challenge. So we're continuing to monitor that and talk to our building leaders and any issues that come up, and supports that we could provide to staff. We've been able to provide them. It was a challenge initially when we had less students in person, but it has become an even bigger challenge with, more students in person. I mean, at Sullivan, we have one class that, has over 20 students in person and 4 that are remote, and that's really tough to manage as a teacher. So I just really want to commend those teachers and those paraprofessionals and those school principals who have been doing an amazing job dealing with these challenges and overcoming them so that we can welcome back our students to a much more traditional school setting.
Really quick, did you want to take questions at the end, or if somebody has a question now for clarification, or how do you prefer?
If anyone has a questions, they can, you can let me know, Mildred. I'm not monitoring the raised hands or anything.
No, I did see that Mr. Sheehan did have a question. Mr. Sheehan?
Yeah, thank you. So what schools are actually serving breakfast in the morning and who's not?
So there's 4 schools that are sending it home. Mcas, Ian White, Lawrence, and Kelly are sending it home. And that's been successful. We still have our feeding sites available for pickup, but we haven't had any complaints. If a student does show up and they're hungry, we make sure to feed them. But overall, that's been a really good success in terms of being able to do that. But the rest of the schools they might not be as at capacity as some of these schools, or their space isn't as limited. Lawrence is one in particular. Like, I think it has I know for a fact that Lawrence just has tiny classrooms. Some of our classrooms can fit 28 kids in terms of the square footage, but Lawrence, that's not one of the, it'd be difficult to even get 18 students at 3 feet apart over there at Lawrence, just how small the classrooms are.
And I also saw, go ahead, Mr. Sheehan.
So all the other ones you didn't list are serving breakfast in the morning, whether it's the classroom or an alternative space?
That is correct. Yep.
Okay.
So, Devin, and so I use that first grade at Sullivan as a good example because I was able to go over there the first day, and there's 20 students. So what they do is they take half of those students and they're eating breakfast in the cafeteria, and the other half are eating in their classroom. So they split them up in the morning to take attendance and do what they would normally do during breakfast in the classroom. And then after they're done eating, I think they go to their specials, and then they come back together for the rest of their classes. Like I said, our staff are just being really creative to make sure that we can. And then the other classes are able to do it, either in the classroom because there's enough space to do it, or using other spaces in the building. But right now, only Metcalfe and White, Lawrence, and Kelly are sending breakfast home. And I also wanted to state that dinner and snack is also going home with all of those students as well. All of our students.
How are those schools? I mean, are they doing lunches in the cafeteria, or are they doing lunch in their classrooms in those schools that aren't doing breakfast?
They're doing lunches in their classroom, and they're utilizing other spaces. But during lunch, they have staff to be able to monitor that. It's a challenge to be able to, and you can have enough lunch periods in the day to be able to accommodate that, so that, it could be that half of the classroom is going out to recess and the other half are staying in the classroom. It's difficult to do early in the morning, all at once. You know, at lunch, you can stagger your lunches, but breakfast, you know, first thing in the day, you know, we just don't have enough staff to be able to monitor that many students if we're sending some outside, sending some other places at these particular schools. Again, many of our schools are doing it, but these particular schools, based on their unique, you know, their building and the amount of students that are in person, it was just too much of a challenge to be able to do that in the morning.
Okay.
And the next slide is I think I already covered this, but really wanted to thank our teachers and paras. We've asked so much of our teachers and paras and our school leaders. We've asked them to do so much that they haven't done in the past. Use, you know, new technology, new strategies, in some cases disinfecting, enforcing social distancing and other protocols, engaging students differently. And it's just been amazing to see. And some of our principals, I mean, sometimes I'm on the phone at like 11 o'clock at night with a principal dealing with, you know, a communication around either a COVID positive or a close contact issue. So it's I can't stress enough how amazing our teachers and paras and all of our staff have been in rising to the occasion and making sure that, you know, everything that's thrown at them, they've been really flexible and been able to step up to the challenge in support of our students.
Mr. Soto, I thought I put myself off of mute after Mr. Sheehan, but I guess I was talking to myself again. But I did see Mr. Wallahan's hand raised. Did you have a question that you wanted to ask now, or did you want him to finish the presentation?
Let me ask it now real quick.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for the update, Mr. Soto. Just kind of looking at the demographics for the children between pre-K and 5th grade. You have a chart, the number of students that are learning in person versus remote. And you have the breakdown per school. So really, the ranges are pretty consistent. Some of them have half are in person, half remote, and then 60-40, 70-30. The only school that's sort of the opposite is Kelly School. Kelly has 71% of the children learning remote and only 30% in person. Is there a reason why that one's like the opposite of the trend?
I mean, I don't have it's not a specific science, but unfortunately, based on, you know, all of the outreach that we have done as a district and that school has done, that's just the amount of families that are choosing to come in person. So we didn't just take the information from the survey and take it at face value. Our schools did a really good job, like trying to get a hold of families. It just so happens that that in that particular neighborhood at that particular school, more families are choosing to stay remote. I don't know why that is.
It's sort of weird because I mean, like that school, I heard there was challenges with the computers and the Chromebooks and the access for the remote learning. So I would assume that school specifically would be encouraging their children to get back to the classroom. So yeah. I'm really surprised.
We are.
I'm really surprised that it's the opposite of the trend. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think that percentage is an indication of our efforts to get students or in person, you know, we really, I think all of our students benefit. We all recognize and have seen that remote learning just isn't optimal for most of our students, not just our Kelly neighborhood. We really want our students in person. So I'm glad you pointed that out, Mr. Wellahan. I saw that as well, and that was alarming to me. And you know, we have been having conversations. That's definitely an area where we can continue to do outreach, and if we can convince more families to come in person, there's definitely the space available to do that.
Thank you.
So I know I have Mr. Sheehan. He also had another question, but I just kind of want to just make a comment in regards to that. I just want to remind individuals that we also have to take into account that people still do not feel comfortable sending their students back to school. Again, to them, the pandemic either may have touched their homes, may have touched their lives in a negative way. We also have to look at the fact that we also have some families where the student is being raised by grandparents, and when their grandparents have health conditions and that's all they have, we can't risk for them to lose their grandparents from COVID or anything. And so it's all factors that play into it. It's so I just want everybody to be mindful of that and understand that. I'll be right with you, Miss Tensley Williams. I did say, so I'll get to you in just 1 minute. So I just want to make sure there's a lot of factors as to why students are not going back, even if they are struggling with internet connection or really understanding or being fully engaged in remote teaching. So I know Ms. Tensley Williams.
Yes, I don't know if it's a private situation. Has anyone reached out to the parents to see exactly why they don't, you know, want the kids to come in person? I'm not saying they should, but has anyone tried to find out how come?
Yeah, our school continues to do that outreach. So, you know, that is something that, you know, thank you for raising that as an issue. It's something that I definitely noticed. We have continued to do outreach at the school level to try to get more families to come in person. But I'm going to look into that even deeper, because that is an alarming, you know, statistic, and it's an outlier. I mean, most of our schools are at least above or at 50%, and Kelly's not. So I appreciate you know, your concern, because I had the same concern. But we have been assured that between the family engagement team and the administrators and teachers over at Kelly, they have been doing a lot of that outreach. I'll be happy to provide more details on, you know, whether, you know, how much of that was actual positive confirmation versus not being able to get a hold of the families. So I'd be happy to bring that back to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Soto.
So Mr. Soto, I just want to make sure that if you do receive confirmation that it's that families are choosing that, we're not going to turn around and try to kind of like push them to change their minds to send their students back because the Kelly numbers are not up to par with everyone else. Again, each ward, each school has its own unique differences and challenges, and we have to be respectful of that and culturally sensitive to that. So again, see if it could be that you can't get a hold of them. That's one thing, but if you can get a hold of them and they're adamant and do not want to send their kids right now, then we have to be respectful. We have to respect that choice, not make them feel that they're making a bad choice, because it's health comes first, health and safety. The next I see Mrs. Brunel's hand up.
Yeah, so one of my questions was kind of, and we might not even begin to know the answers to this yet, but looking ahead towards September. Because I know it's like it says right here in the biggest challenges is it's hard for teachers to live stream with only one teacher in the classroom. And, you know, having students in the building and it's basically they're on their computer. They're on their computer. They're not getting the same kind of instruction that they used to get. They're not even having to use a pencil and paper. So, you know, come September, do we think that, I don't know that we can say that people will be required to attend in person. I'm assuming DESE will probably make that a requirement. But as a district, Mr. Soto, if you just know, you know, are we starting to plan ahead for September and like, you know, are our kids going to be sitting in front of a computer all day still while they're in the building?
Yeah, we're planning for a much more traditional setting. Based on the guidance that DESE has released and, what all the conversations that we have had with DESE, starting April 5th, we had to have families choose either one or the other, not a hybrid model. And, in conversations with them, when you're on a webinar, all signs are pointing to like part of the reason that is being done is because we need to start getting ready for to get our students back now, but also just start getting used to going back to school. And it doesn't sound like, that's going to be an option for, for us to do like some sort of hybrid model. We will be discussing, what's going to happen if we have a lot of families that are choosing to either homeschool or, inquiring about some sort of remote model. Those are conversations that we got to start having. We have a meeting with, there's a commissioner's call tomorrow where we expect to get some information on what we're going to do with high schools. And, little by little, we're also starting to get some more information about next year. But I think that, we're planning on just receiving students next year in person. And I'm hoping that, the majority of our families feel comfortable enough. I hope that, more people are vaccinated and, we learn more about this vaccine and get this under control and get to a point where we could just go back to school normally. I know that that's what we're planning for. I'm not sure at this point, how we're going to handle if a family is choosing to either homeschool or whether or not we're going to have a remote model. That is something that we got to start having conversations about at the district level.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Soto. Thank you, Ms. Brunel. That was it for questions.
So the next slide is about middle school return. So many of you are aware that today our middle schoolers came back, and again, it's like the first day of school for a lot of our students and some of our staff who haven't been in their classroom since the beginning of the school year. So far, it's been a huge success. I think that one of the things that really worked out well for us was that we started the middle school campus learning center model earlier. I mean, we as a district, we could have went with the state guidance and just started middle schoolers on April 28th and stayed in a remote model, but we didn't think that was the right thing to do. After we looked at our academic data and our middle school off-track data, and we really wanted to make sure that those families that wanted to come into, wanted their children in their buildings with staff and to get used to going back to school, we wanted to make sure that was an option for them. And I think we benefited from that greatly because a lot of students were able to start developing relationships with staff and get to know their school. Some students are in 6th grade and are stepping into that school for the first time. Some of the biggest challenges were very similar to the elementary, in that live streaming is very difficult, especially with one teacher. And then we also have some challenges, or are planning for some challenges around small group instruction, and how to make sure that all the protocols are being followed and disinfecting is happening when there's transitions. So again, a huge shout out to the staff, because so far we've been able to overcome all of those challenges. And the students that want to be in person started today. And we have approximately 390 students in grades 6 to 8. So that's about 40% there of our middle schoolers are returned today, and will be in person 5 days a week. The next slide just shows our student demographic. So you can see a breakdown. In pre-K to 5, we're at about 1,468 students. That represents about 57% of our pre-K to 5 students are choosing in person, and the rest are remote. You'll see that in middle school, like I said, we anticipate about 390. We haven't collected that's based on who said they were going to be showing up today. And then preliminary high school, we did survey for high school, and we got about 340 students that are choosing in person. So that brings us to about 2,200 students, which is about 68% of our total student body, which is great. Really, really good that we're able to get our students back in person. Does anybody have any questions on middle schools?
I didn't have any hands raised. Miss Tensley Williams, did you have a question or a comment?
No, thank you for asking.
No problem. Okay.
So as far as high school goes, as you all know, we didn't get any guidance from the state on, similar to how we got guidance from the state on elementary and middle. We haven't received that from the state yet, but my guess is that tomorrow at 3 o'clock or 2:30, I think the call is that's when they're going to let us know that the guidance is going to be coming out and what it is. But that hasn't stopped our high school from planning to come in person. We had a survey. Initially, it was going to close last week, but we extended it so that it's going to close on April 28th. And so far, we have about 560 responses. It's pretty much an equal split in terms of the how many of those responses are from Dean and how many are from North. I think 53% are Dean, 47% are North. But overall, 59% of the students that responded are choosing to come back full in person 5 days a week, which is great. Sorry, which is great. And we don't have a definitive date, but we are considering May 10th being able to at least get started and stagger, maybe start one grade at a time. But again, that'll, tomorrow's conversation with the state is really going to dictate what we have to do. My sense is, and what I'm hearing is that May 17th could be a date as well. So it was either going to be May 10th or May 17th. Those were the dates that I keep hearing thrown around. So our approach was to make sure that we were ready for May 10th. We've had the highest response rate from the 10th grade students, about 33%, and the lowest from our 12th graders. So only 14% of our 12th graders responded to the survey so far. We're going to continue to do that outreach and try to get as many of the students, try to get as much data and information from students and families on who wants to come back full in person, so that we can make sure we're ready But again, we're planning to do something on May 10th. And we have a cabinet meeting tomorrow, and we have a meeting, a webinar with Desi tomorrow. And both of those meetings are going to be critical. So in terms of like solidifying what we're actually going to be doing, but we're going to be ready either way. The school day is going to run a full day. The class schedules will remain the same. We're going to try to limit transitions to about 3 per day. Breakfast, what we had discussed with the high school team and what they think is best is to start breakfast and have a grab and go stations outside before school starts. And then also utilize outside spaces and alternate spaces in terms of inclement if we have like rain or we're unable to eat outside. But the high school is putting together a really good plan on what that could look like and try to do as much of that outside as possible.
I see Mr. Sheehan has his hand up.
Yeah, just back to where you're looking at the enrollment numbers. Do you know off the top of your head the difference in enrollment from about a year ago total? Like what's our district enrollment today to compare to a year ago?
Yeah, I want to say it's down by 129 students.
Okay.
That's our that's our foundation enrollment. I know that, Devin, but as you know, foundation enrollment isn't equivalent to in district, but it is somewhere around there, about 130. But the biggest drop in enrollment is in grades pre-K and K. So the majority of that drop is pre-K and K, which makes sense. Families that haven't started school yet, given this pandemic, are like, you know what, I want to keep my 4-year-old, 5-year-old here. I don't want to take that risk and send them to school. So we saw a significant drop in enrollment in those 2 grades in particular.
Okay. And then you were talking about the high school, the possible return back either the 10th or maybe the 17th, depending on where that falls. Can you tell me more about this limiting transitions and to 3 and what this will look like as part of the school day? Because obviously the high school schedule is much different than another school schedule. So can you just kind of tell me more about that? I don't think, our next meeting is not until May 17th, so we will potentially be open by the time that comes along.
Yeah, I'm going to ask if you could let folks from the high school team in to be able to answer that. So Lori McKenna.
Because I guess they're coming in, I guess my concern is kind of what Mrs. Brunel was bringing up before. If it's just kids sitting in homeroom on a computer, having their classes sitting in their computer just doesn't seem like something I'd love to do if I was in high school.
Yeah, can we let Dr. Mahoney, Lori Dennis, and
I have everybody with Lori Dennis. Here she comes. They are all in.
Don't all speak at once. I'm not sure if you all
So I could jump in on the Dean campus. Just the limiting transitions would be normally you have kind of a 6 to 7 period day. We'd be looking at running a schedule where there's 4 periods, and also on the Dean campus, kind of relocating some classrooms so they're right next to each other by grade level, just so there's not 8 or 9 transitions in the course of a day, and maybe 3 or 4, and really just like we need to turn the bells off and just work on transitions happening strategically by grade level. So.
And at Holyoke High School, we have We redid room assignments to plan for grade levels pretty much being on floors. So all of our third floor will have our freshman students, all of our second floor will have our 10th grade students, and then our 11th and 12th grade students will be staggered between rooms that are left on the first and second floor. We currently do have only 4 blocks a day, and we're going to keep that same schedule. So it will be pretty much 4 transitions, 2 blocks in the morning. Students would go to lunch. Lunch would be by their floor, designated spaces in the building and outside the building. And then they would go in the afternoon to 2 classes. So it would be pretty much just 1 floor, and unless it's an elective for each grade level, and then just the 4 classes throughout the day.
And then I would just add to Mr. Sheehan's concern about sitting and just doing Zoom while you're in the classroom. We have, with the support from the city and the technology department, purchased a considerable amount of swivel camera setups that will allow our teachers to be able to move through the room with the kind of a robotic camera following them, and they'll be mic'd, so they won't be anchored to the camera on their laptop or on their desktop for teaching the kids who are remote at that time. That definitely has a learning curve to it, and we will be looking, once we have guidance from the state, we'll be looking to name several blocks of time where we can do some of that tech training for our teachers. But it won't require anything new except donning a microphone by the teachers and making sure that the camera that will follow them and their microphone is turned on for their classes. So hopefully we'll actually be able to do live streaming in a way that schools that haven't had that technology haven't been able to do just yet.
Yeah, so I guess I'm more curious about what I asked. So will students be transitioning to different classes, or are they going to be, so if I have math class first period, I'm going to my math class. If I have English class my second period, art class my third period, it's not just going to be in homeroom having class in homeroom. You are actually going to be going to your subject teachers.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All day.
Yeah, and we actually, Lori, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Mr. Maldonado and Mr. Gonzalez did they go to West Springfield High School today?
Yeah, 2 of our admin team went to West Springfield to see how they did it, and they did transition from class to class, and they just kind of looked at how they did things, and it flowed very, very well. There was even the movement in the hallways. If it was on the same floor, if a student was going from one class to another class on the same floor, actually they did not have to, there was 2-way traffic because there was so few students in the building, and it allowed for that. The only time there was the transition one way was on the stairs. So we're looking at our plan that we've already developed just to kind of make some tweaks based on the visit that they had, and some of the things that we can get a little bit smarter about seeing it in action with students in the building.
Okay, and then I know that Mr. Soto had mentioned this just with response rates, but what were the response rates again for high school? Was that a slide? I didn't know if that was a slide. I didn't see it in our packet. I don't know if you were just kind of telling us because you're still in the middle of surveys, but like where were we again with high schools?
We had 560 responses. That represents about half of our, let me see how, help me out here, Mahoney. I know that 50.
I'd say Anthony, that's about 40% of our
yep.
We'll be doing a full court press in our squad, our advisory class on the North Campus tomorrow. So we anticipate that number increasing significantly tomorrow. We launched this survey 2 days before spring vacation, and so we wanted to give folks a little bit more immediacy to it.
And of the 560, Mr. Sheehan, about 59% of them are choosing in person.
Okay. And then, I mean, I know you are kind of going back and forth with this guidance, like from the state and everything, but there's high schools back. I mean, so if the state says the 17th, are you going to plan for the 10th? I mean, it's just, I know this is coming tomorrow. If the state says that 20, we can kind of take a moving target and it goes around and around. But I mean, is the 10th the date? Is that what because we're less than a month. Yeah. We're way less than a month.
So if the state says that the 17th, all students that want to have to be in person and remote no longer counts, then we'll be able to start May 10th with a phased in approach, right? So we could start with, Mahoney, I don't know what grades, because we're going to be talking about this at cabinet, but we could start with like seniors first or freshmen first, one day, kind of like what we're doing at Dean, and then go the 17th all in person, but have them start kind of a hybrid in-person model the week before. But if the state says that May 10th has to be the day, then May 10th has to be the day. We can't do that transition. It has to be all at once. Mahoney, I'm not sure if you want to comment on that.
No, you captured that right. I think that initially, right now, the plan on the North Campus is to start with the seniors and work their way down to ninth grade, and then have everyone back on that Friday, the 4th. If 17th is the go date, have everyone back on the 14th. North remains the larger of challenge for the two, only because we've had anywhere from 70 to 85% of our Dean students have been on campus at least once a week. And so are very familiar with safety protocols and expectations and that drill, as are the majority of staff. So, I think that North Campus is the place where we're spending a lot more attention to getting faculty and staff and students ready for that return to school.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have Ms. Brunel.
Yeah, sorry I'm not on camera. I'm driving my kids to their class. So to Devin's point about this being on screen, so even my daughter's transitioning classrooms. So that's not really, I think, the point. It's more, what are they doing in the classroom? So all the lessons are on the computer. Everything is on the computer. So though they're physically moving classroom to classroom, they're not having that same in-class experience that we did pre-pandemic. So that was the point I was trying to make with kids getting off the computer, not necessarily just the transition piece. So there, I just wanted to make sure that that's being emphasized because, Dr. Mahoney, and I'm sorry, I can't think of the woman's name right now because I don't have my screen in front of me. You guys were emphasizing that we're going to have the kids transition and the new camera technology. That's great. But do we still expect the kids that are in the classroom to have a laptop in front of them and that's how they're doing all their lessons, right? So it's basically, you're still on the computer, whether you're in the building or you're at home.
Yeah, well, I think that's a really interesting area for us to be exploring, not only through the rest of this year, but as we move forward. One of the things that if a silver lining, if anything, or at least a place where we've learned, is that teachers have really figured out how to use digital resources to support student learning. So, instead of passing out papers, kids can access the same articles. They've learned how to text code. I think
sure, Mr. Mahoney, but we don't want the kids to be on screen 8 hours a day.
Right. So I don't know if they'll be on screen. There's an opportunity to do breakout rooms and to organize the breakout rooms so that the four of us who are in the classroom are in a live breakout room together, doing work together, doing collaborative work together. There's an opportunity for teachers when they're doing one-on-one conferencing to actually do live conferencing with the student during the classroom and as opposed to doing it online. Now, given if there's a whole class conversation and students are debating, you know, the original intent of the Constitution and the framers, they'll be online because some of the students, it looks like it could be, you know, maybe 40 or 50% of their classmates will also be online. And so that they'll have to be communicating both through a Zoom as well as to the kids in the classroom. But I do think that we anticipate students will be less online than they are, less married to the computer than they are now, but that they will be needing the devices, you know, throughout the whole of the class to access the curriculum material.
Okay, so overall as a district, I think currently they're on their computer just as much when they're in school as if they were home in my dining room. So that's something that I think, obviously I understand why, because there are students from the classroom that are remote, but it would be nice to start transitioning away from that. It would be nice to see some math assignments being done in a workbook, or, you know, for the kids to need to use their penmanship once in a while, right? So, and even come September, when we are hopefully fully in person, like just because we now know how to use all this digital technology and all these resources, like I don't want to see our district relying on technology come September. You know, it's great our kids know how to use it, but they need to know how to write with a pen and paper. They need to know how to use a calc. You know what I'm saying? Like we can't just rely on all this technology now because we have it and it's user friendly. So I'm just hoping that we're being conscious of that and the role of screen time. And, you know, again, I understand there's plenty of kids for whatever reason are still remote. Therefore, the teachers being divided between teaching the students in person and the students that are on the remote. So I understand. I'm just being conscious of the fact that we are still very much on the screen and being conscious of transitioning away from that as a district, not just the high school.
Sure. Yep. 100% I think that's a concern for teachers as much as it is for families and parents and kids.
Thank you, Ms. Brunel. Mr. Wellhand.
Thank you. I just want to welcome Mayor Murphy to our meeting. That's all. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Mr. Soto, did you want to continue? I don't have any further questions.
Great. I think that brings us to the next part of the agenda, which is Mcas. And I'll ask that you allow Valerie to come in as a panelist as well. So as far as an update for Mcas goes, what we're going to be doing is we'll have a remote option for Mcas for grades 3 to 8. If families, you know, most of our remote learners, you know, they weren't comfortable with, the families weren't comfortable with sending them in. So, you know, there is going to be an option for us to be able to administer Mcas remotely for grades 3 to 8. We're going to be using a browser-based version of what's called the Test Nav system. Our IT department right now is working just to make sure that all of the Chromebooks meet the requirements for that Test Nav system. And the state's also, you know, the guidance that they provided is they'd like to see some monitoring. So even though some students are going to be choosing to take the tests remotely, we got to figure out a way somehow for us to be able to monitor them while they're taking the tests. And then some guidance that was released earlier as well is that the class of 22, so this year's grade 11, the competency determination has been modified so that they'll no longer be required to pass the Mcas or an ELA or math in order to graduate. So that's a good thing, but they'll still be able to, they'll have the option to take that because it could affect them being able to qualify for scholarships like the Adams and the Stanley Koplik Certificate of Mastery. And then, so we do have, again, on Thursday, April 29th, we do have a training that Desi is going to be putting on as it relates to Mcas testing. And we have many of our administrators are going to be attending that training. It's going to be this Thursday, April 29th. Val, did you want to add anything to that? We other than the dates on the next slide?
No, I think that a lot of the questions that I can anticipate are going to be similar to the ones that we have, which is how are we going to manage remote testing? And so we're hoping to have a lot more information after we attend the training on the 29th, which is this Thursday. We do know we've began to coordinate with Mcas and the IT department. Today, Dr. Curtis sent out a checklist, just kind of reiterating some of the action steps that we have to take to prepare for Mcas. And we know that the in-person assessment we'll be ready to roll with. We're going to spend the most of our time with our leaders trying to figure out what this remote assessment option looks like. So we'll have more information after we attend the training. That's probably where most of our energies are going to be focused on, since that's the largest change. If there's questions around accountability or some specifics around how it looks for grades 3 through 8 versus the high school staff can help talk through some of their planning. And if you have questions around accountability, we can answer that as well.
I have a couple hands up. I think Miss Brunel just couldn't take her hand down because she's driving. But
I re-raised it, but thank you.
Sorry about that.
So am I first?
I guess you are.
Thank you, my Dan.
You're welcome.
So I just questions about opting out and what do we intend to provide as activity for those students that opt out? I know that there is a formal process to opting out of Mcas, and I've heard from a lot of parents with concerns about Mcas this year, and they don't even want to put their kids through the stress of taking Mcas. So what does the opting out options look like?
Yeah, so I mean, there's not a formal opt-out process. Student families they're probably likely still, some are going to likely choose to not send their kids to school during testing or not let them test, but we'll make sure that we have some asynchronous learning opportunities during those days in case things like that have come up. I know that that's what we're doing at the high school. Valerie, do you want to add to that?
Mr. Soto is correct on that. There isn't an official opt-out. Obviously, parents have the choice to, as they did with any year, to not have their child attend school during an Mcas testing session. The test has been significantly reduced. So it is only one session for ELA, one session for math, and then in grades 5 and 8 at the grades 3 through 8 level, one session for science. So it's half of the test that it would typically be. I think before people opt out, they really need to understand how many days of testing and not just these windows, because these are the windows that we're allowed to schedule individual grade levels at the school levels. And so classrooms aren't testing this entire time. They may have one session of ELA and one session of math in grades 3 through 8. And it could be any one of these days. It wouldn't be the full day either. So just want parents to be able to have that information and know what the actual testing schedule looks like for their school, so they can make decisions that make sense for them and their children. We want students to participate if they're in person in school, and we honor families making their decisions on whether to participate or not.
So I can speak for my family. We'll be opting out, and taking an absence certainly won't be an option. So we'll have to find an activity for kids to do in the classroom, because they're not going to simply not go to school because they're not going to take the test.
Question. Got a question.
We certainly have students who have opted out in the past, and there is always something that the classroom teacher has arranged for them. It is sometimes in a different location because the students are testing, but that's something that the schools are familiar with having to provide.
Right. The reason I'm bringing it up is because of COVID, right? So we have to, like, if they're going to a different location within the building, be planning ahead for that. And, you know, as far as the formal process, I thought a parent just had to like submit a letter to the school, right? So that was all I meant by say a formal process, is just making your intentions known. But, you know, like you said, it could be as simple as moving the child to a different location within the building and giving them an activity. But during COVID, you can't just intermingle. So that's something to be, I don't know, start planning for and preparing for, I guess.
Yep.
So I would say that once the schools have their schedules, that families we do want to keep accurate records of who's quote unquote opting out of the test. So the schools would need to know and have that in writing. There's not a formal process beyond that. So as a parent, you notify in writing the principal, and then we'll have to determine what happens from there with the students on an individual school by school basis. If the numbers are much larger, we do need a lot of staff in order to proctor the exams, particularly with the social distancing. So we'll just have to plan accordingly once we know what those numbers look like by school.
Question.
Thank you. Yeah, Ms. Tensley Williams, I got you. I have two other people that had their hands raised.
Okay.
But I definitely have you down that you have a question or a comment. The next person is Mr. Sheehan.
Yeah, so for remote students that are using that TestNav program for Mcas administration, how do you know yet how you deal with accommodations? Like if you have a student that gets everything read to, will the system, or is the proctor who's on Zoom gonna have to be doing that?
We do not have discrete details on that yet. The TestNav system is the same as it would be if they were in the building. It's only web-based at this point. So they do want teachers to be proctoring still and keeping an eye on them remotely through video conferencing. And so we plan on, that's one of the questions that we have written down actually around that. And we're hoping that they provide clarification on that during the training on Thursday.
Okay. And so I'm assuming then there'd be a group of teachers, like administrators on the virtual, on TestNav, and then a group that are proctoring in the classroom. You would never have someone doing both, right?
Correct. It would be near impossible to proctor both. We would have to split staffing.
And I'm assuming it's almost like to one when you're proctoring on TestNav to a student, since you have that relation with Zoom.
Right. So we know one of the things, like we already know, like some of our networking should be able to handle, our devices will handle the TestNav. We know that connectivity might be an issue that we want to make sure that we run through some trials before we open up live testing. One of the other things would be, how are we managing staffing of both the remote testers as well as the in-person students who are testing? So those are all the kinks that we're going to have to work out pretty quickly. But our IT director has asked that we schedule as far into the window as possible, not right at the front end, so that we can work out some of these kinks through some smaller trials at the school level.
Yeah, I guess I just wouldn't want to see with this remote option kind of what happened with last year with AP exams, that everyone went in to take the first day of AP exams and crashed the entire system and had to retake them globally. And I mean, knowing that this is very similar software to that would be my only concern. I wouldn't want to be the ones crashing the entire system at the same time. And if, like, mean, I would test if a Chromebook could really handle Zoom in this system all at once, because it seems like it would be a lot.
Those are some of the questions we have. And we know that we're already stretching our bandwidth with the number of Zooms that we're running now because of our learning model, but the IT department is working on expanding that and have put out some guidance to us already around, kind of optimizing our system. And so that team is well aware of the challenges that are going to be coming up. And I'm pretty sure that they'll be joining us on the training on the 29th as well. So we'll make sure to have some planning time after that with the right folks. So Dr. Curtis has already been in contact with Mcas. The three of us have been on email exchanges. Dr. Curtis and I have been talking about it. And again, after Thursday, we'll have much better formed opinions and kind of actions around what's next.
Yeah, and do you have concerns, especially with the bandwidth, considering that I believe looking at the testing window that was set up is almost a carbon copy of the testing window for advanced placement? I mean, is there any concern that you're running these two very data heavy programs during the exact same time with it? Because I think AP is right around that same time remotely, correct?
There is right now, Devin, but on what the issue we're having with bandwidth right now has to do with our firewall. And we on Wednesday are going to be updating. So starting at 4 o'clock, our network is going to be down, and we're putting a brand new firewall in, which would help with some of the bandwidth issues that we're experiencing right now. So I think the part of the issues that we ran into in the past was you've heard Matt Kosmeskis, his name brought up several times. He hasn't been as involved in the past with what the plans were and when we were doing them and how the how the trials were being run. But as you can see, Valerie and Tiffany have been in real close communication with him and making sure that this time around he is very much involved. And that's the area of expertise that he brings to make sure that we have that he advises Valerie and her team and Tiffany and her team on scheduling so that our network our network and our devices can support this testing.
Yeah, so when you're on a district device and you're a student and log in, does that run through our firewall even if you're at home and bounce back? Is that the process, or are you just on when you're home on yours?
When you're home, you're on your own.
So it's not authenticating right through the district.
It runs through our web content filter, but not through our firewall.
Yeah, then I would even hope, like, for those days of the AP exams, that if we aren't 100% sure that those students that are taking AP exams won't have interruption because of Mcas being administered, that maybe those can be remote learning days for those students to take those at home rather than taking them at school if they're in-person students. Especially knowing I think knowing some of the pressure that students are also putting themselves through for advanced placement, that it might just give a good learning environment for some if home is a better learning environment than at school, especially if those interruptions could be there.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion, Devin. We'll have to get Valerie, can you make sure you ask that question? Because right now we can't, that's not something that we, that instruction wouldn't count towards student learning time.
Absolutely. I also
given the current guidance, so we're going to have to ask them if they can make an exception for that.
I also know that the high school is being really thoughtful around their planning around Mcas and staggering who's taking assessments when, and I'm sure that they're thinking of the AP exams as well during that time. So we'll continue to try to monitor and make sure that we're not overcrowding assessments all at once. But I'll jot that question down and make sure we ask it.
Thank you, Ms. Burks.
So I basically have three questions. One is, how will accommodations be met for students that are MCAS testing that are choosing to stay remote? So how is that going to happen for our special ed students? Would be my first question. I don't know if you want me to slam all three.
I would say that those who require the most accommodations can, we're hoping many of those choose to test in person as possible so that we could meet their needs. And other than that, we are still in the problem solving process, but we absolutely want to make sure that those accommodations are our top priority in making sure that they're met. We need to learn more around what that looks like for remote students. A lot of times we can make the assumption that we may be doing some individual assessment that happens in person anyway. We'd have to set up the same type of process for those who are testing remotely.
Okay, so it's basically still something that's in progress. And then another question. So I know Erin touched upon students that are opting out of MCAS and making sure that they have educational space. So I'm guessing, I could be wrong, for kids like special ed students who are on portfolios, when other students are MCAS testing, like previously they've been offered time in different areas of the school. So I'm guessing that's the same kind of concept you guys are going with, correct? So it would be why other students are MCAS testing, kids that are opting out or kids that have portfolios, you know, they go to alternate spaces and given alternate activities. So that would be my guess, right?
Yes, absolutely. So students who are on the who do portfolio assessments, schools already have a system of how they are provided with appropriate educational opportunities while the rest of the students are testing. Again, the testing isn't like we shut down everything. It could be grade level, certain classrooms, other classrooms would continue to run as is. So that's something we're used to planning for. So that's probably the easiest thing we have to think about with this test administration window.
And then my last one is last school year, you know, due to COVID and all of the, you know, new things that came out in regards to graduation, one of the issues that we did run into is that although students met course requirements, you know, some shouldn't have been issued diplomas because they weren't really where they needed to be in order to graduate. And special ed students, you know, that was also in the mix of being given diplomas. I just want to make sure that we're really being mindful to make sure that we're setting kids up for the best possible outcome. I'm worried that just because the state's saying if you meet the course requirement, you can still attain a diploma. I just want to make sure that we're setting kids up, that they're really ready to be able to go out, join the workforce, you know, obtain, you know, higher education. I want to make sure that we're really mindful to make sure that these kids are ready, and we're not just doing it because we're able to in a pandemic and to make graduation numbers look better than they actually should. So that's something that's a concern area for me, especially because of, you know, some of the things last year that we learned. But those were my three questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Burks. And we certainly are putting some additional checks and processes in place to ensure that obviously all of our goal is that our students are ready to succeed beyond their high school career in whatever they choose, whether it's career training or moving on to college. So we share that goal with you, and we also will refine and have refined processes to ensure that we don't run into the same situation that we did that you mentioned. So appreciate you bringing that up.
Thank you, Ms. Burks. Ms. Tensley Williams.
I'm going to sound redundant now because some of the questions that I needed to ask have probably been answered, But I just want to say, with the students not being able to attend school normally for the past year, now the ones that are opting out, how would this affect their grades? Now, when you say opt out, do you mean they're not going to take the test, or does it mean they'll take it at a later date? Because I don't want the kids to have to pay for it, to repercussions because, you know, they opted out and didn't take the test.
So the required, you're right. So there is no technical formal opt-out. We can't condone that. We know that parents make their own decisions about their children's with the testing, and some do have their children opt out. In grade levels, other than those who would need this for graduation, so particularly grades 3 through 8, it does not impact their grades. At the high school, it does not impact their grades either. It impacts the awarding of meeting the competency determination to receive their diploma. So it is required to receive a passing score on the high school assessments. The earlier slide showed that this year's 11th grade students will not be, that has been waived for them. Due to the fact that they didn't have an opportunity to take the assessments last year. This year's 10th grade students are required to take it. 11th grade students can take it if they want to qualify for scholarships that Mr. Soto mentioned earlier. So it does not, so the short answer to that, Mrs. Williams, is that it does not impact their grades or final grades. It does impact the high school competency determination for 10th grade. And so okay. We highly hope that that 10th graders are not opting out of the assessment.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't want the kids to be punished in the long run. So you answered it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Tinsley Williams. There are no more further questions. Oh, wait, somebody just raised their hand. I'm sorry. Mayor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just in terms of this test, MCAS testing, I mean, I'm going to make an assumption that we can't expect most of these students to come to the level that they ordinarily would have been in a non-COVID year. So are we using this to determine or to assist us in determining programming, additional instruction, extra tutoring so that we can catch up? And I mean, how long are they doing this MCAS testing? I know you got a month there, but I'm sure they're not doing all of that for a month. So, I mean, is that the rationale for doing this rather than just starting intensity with trying to provide more instruction?
Very good question. So this year, the state is saying that they're holding accountability levels where they are. So the MCAS test will not negatively impact our accountability ratings at all, which is one of the uses of the assessment. The other is to see how the state does on a whole with assuring that students are receiving high quality instruction and able to meet the standards at each grade level assessed. This year, the assessment is going to be used as one more group of data, formative data, to allow us to see how we're doing and use this to design instructional programming for next year. Now, internally, well, that's an important metric, and we can see how the state was doing and how we compared with that. More importantly, our internal assessments and our internal screeners that we are developing and are currently working on having a assessment calendar for next year that quarterly has us taking quick hitting assessments that are embedded in what the students are learning. It's in their curriculum or their screeners at the younger levels that help teachers more timely, in a more timely way, design instruction that meets their needs and helps us accelerate and close the gaps. So this is going to be one data point that we can use along with our internal data to drive our instructional planning for students.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Murphy. Ms. Brunel, you have your hand raised again, correct?
I do.
Okay, I want to make sure.
I do. I mean, it's no surprise how, you know, everybody knows that I don't really support standardized testing, but to Mr. Murphy's point, and then your counterpoint, like, I mean, it's just so irrational to have any weight in a standardized test when these kids have lived through the worst year of their life. Maybe lost a family member, depressed because they haven't seen their classmates in a year. Maybe they're not eating well. God knows the problems that these kids have had in the last year. And it doesn't take a standardized test to tell us that our kids are not all where they should be. You know, we have teachers who spend hours with these students on a daily basis who can tell you whether our kids are where they should be or shouldn't be. So this isn't to the district, this is just MCAS overall. And the fact that our state puts way too much emphasis and way too much other points that we decide on about how these kids do on a standardized test. A standardized test does not tell me all of the wonderful things that my student is able to do and accomplish. It tests simple points that somebody in DESE decided at some point in time that these are what the kids should know. I mean, it's just not a relevant measure, in my opinion. And then to hear, oh, next year it's just going to be built in to have, you know, more timely, efficient assessments. Like, I'm sorry, what happened to a spelling test and a chapter test and a math test? Those are the daily assessments that our teachers are providing to our students on a daily basis. And all this pressure that we put on our students to do well on these standardized tests is absurd. And I really do hope that the legislation gets passed to do away with this. So I don't need a rebuttal or anybody's comments on it because, you know, I understand as a district we have to do it, and I understand what we do, but it's just not right.
Thank you, Ms. Brunel. I have no further questions or anybody asking a question.
Great. The next portion of the agenda, we're going to provide an update on graduation and end of year activities. So the last meeting we mentioned that we had surveyed students, and we were in the process of forming a graduation committee, or had already formed a graduation and end of year activities committee. So what I've shared in this slide deck is the results of some of the of that survey. So at the Dean campus, what we had was 33 of our seniors, which represents about 89% of our seniors at Dean, responded to this survey. And 73% of those seniors responded that they want to have a separate graduation. I think the ones that were in favor of, of having a joint, a more traditional graduation where it's one campus, a lot of them were, athletes that want to be with their teammates and might have a sibling at the school or a best friend that was at the school. But overwhelmingly, the senior class at Dean, 73% were in favor of separating the graduation. And then we had another 125 non-senior students. They were closer to 70% saying that the district should consider separating the graduation. And then faculty and staff, we had about 23 respondents at Dean. There was only one staff member that responded that we should do a joint graduation, and the other 22 responded that they think we should separate. At the North Campus, which is the next slide, we had about 25% of our seniors, which is about 66 students. And again, it's over 70% of them had said that they would be in favor of a separate graduation, not a joint one. And then 79 non-seniors, 58% of them had responded that they would want to separate. And then the faculty at staff was pretty much split. We had 22 faculty and staff at the North Campus respond to the survey, and over 55% had responded in favor of separating the graduations. So based on all of that, we are deciding. We did put a graduation task force together. On this slide, you can see it's made up of 4 seniors, 2 dean and 2 north. We have 4 teachers, so 2 at each campus, and 4 parents of seniors, 2 at each campus. And we did have a representative from the Board of Health. I know that it had been mentioned that earlier in the process they weren't showing up, but we were making sure that they were kept in the loop. We have a school committee representative and Ms. Burks, who's been amazing in making sure this stuff is moving forward. And then obviously both of the principals are involved, and the high school's family engagement coordinator as well has been involved in this process. So there were about 3 to 4 meetings that were had with the full task force, and then each school had their own individual teams that they met at least twice as well. So there's been several meetings around this, and the recommendation was, again, to separate the graduations, which is what we're going to be doing. And then on the next few slides, we have some of the cross-campus things that we're doing as one campus. So the senior car parade will be done on May 23rd from 9 to 12. So again, that's both campuses together. It's not going to be 2 separate parades. We're going to be doing that on May 23rd. Following the parade, we're going to do the Gary Rome car giveaway, which we've done the last couple of years. On Friday, May 14th, we plan on doing we're in the process right now of printing all of the lawn signs that, represent whether, if you're a parent of a senior. So we'll have Dean will have their unique lawn signs, the Dean campus will, and then the North campus will have their own separate lawn signs, but we plan on distributing those on May 14th. And then the banners, so we're going to be doing pictures starting April 28th, or it's going to be from 1 to 6. So for those seniors that haven't had their pictures taken yet, on April 28th, we'll have the opportunity to get their pictures taken so that we can have the banners similar to what we had yesterday. I thought that was a beautiful sight to see, driving down Northampton Street, just watching all of, having each individual senior have a banner. I thought that was really awesome. And we want to make sure that we continue to do that. And we plan on hanging those May 22nd. As for graduation, as I mentioned, overwhelming the students, especially the seniors, over 70% chose to have separate ones. So we do plan on having the North Campus have their graduation on June 6th at 1 p.m. We haven't decided when the graduation rehearsal is going to be, but class day is going to be June 4th. We'll have breakfast in the morning and then class day right after that. And then cap and gown day will be May 15th from 11 to 2. We had a good meeting today with the Board of Health. And as far as capacity goes, as long as we're able to do the graduation outside, each senior will be able to have 3 family members or guests attend. So the Board of Health went to both sites and they spec'd out based on the square footage and the space available outside that they can separate pods in groups of 3, 6 feet apart, which is great because that means that each of our seniors will be able to invite 3 of their family members. And that's new information. We just found out today at a Board of Health meeting. I think there is going to be a meeting with the task force tomorrow where Sean or a designee from the Board of Health will be discussing that with the committee or with the task force. and on the Dean campus. So we plan on having Dean Tech Beautification Day. So, thanks to Rebecca and a lot of the seniors that had expressed, wanting this to look nice. Think about how beautiful it is, the Holyoke High field, with the turf and all of that. We want to make sure that Dean students get to experience something similar. So on May 8th, at 9 in the morning, 9 to 12, there'll be a group of volunteers and folks from our team, from the HPS team and DPW, helping to make sure that field looks really good over at Dean. We're definitely making some improvements to the gym area as well in the event that we do have to go inside. There's some painting going on, but everything we're trying to do is make sure that we can have it outside, because that's where that's where we'll be able to get family members, and we'll be able to do something really nice, I believe, for the seniors in both campuses. So Cap and Gown Day is going to be May 22nd from 11 to 2. The Marquillon Memorial Tree Planting Ceremony. I do want to stress that this is going to be a very private ceremony. It's not something that's going to be open to the public or anything like that. The family really wants to make this a family event, and we want to accommodate those wishes. So that event will be on June 1st, 3:30 to 4:30 at the Dean campus. Breakfast and class day is going to be June 2nd. We haven't decided on the times. And then there'll be a barbecue and rehearsal on June 3rd, 11 to 2. And then the graduation is June 4th at 5:30 p.m.
So I do have two people with their hands raised, and I'm Mr. Sheehan.
You can go to Mrs. Burks first. She worked on the committee. I don't know if she has stuff to report on it as well, but I can wait. She may answer my question.
So Ms. Burks, do you want to give your report an update now, add to what's been said?
Just have a couple, comments and things to add. So I have to say that the task force that was put together is an amazing group of people that genuinely are trying to listen to students. But I will say, in regards to our HPS staff, honestly, above and beyond would be two of the words that I would use. For our principals to all come together and do an emergency meeting with me to answer all my questions, in the evening, at dinner time. And we were on doing a Zoom trying to make sure that all of our T's were crossed and our I's were dotted. I don't know if people really understand how far above and beyond they're all going. And then, the teams that are working directly on the graduation committees for each school, it's absolutely amazing, the amount of work that they're doing. So, I want to acknowledge that, because they're doing an amazing job and they're really trying to be mindful of both campuses. In regards to Dean's Beautification Day on May 8th, we're really hoping that the community is going to come together. We're hoping that elected officials will come out and get their hands dirty. These students are trying to own their school. They're trying to be proud of their school. And they're trying to really prove that they are their own individual school and their identity. And their staff is really, backing them. And this is a student choice and a student run event. This is not something where an adult came up with this great idea, let's do a beautification. This was the kids' idea. But we really need, as a community, to come out and support these kids. They need to see our faces, working with them hand in hand, pulling this off. It's really important. It's important that they feel supported, because for a long time they didn't, and they've really found their voice to vocalize that recently. And so I'm really hoping that as a community, we can really come out and show them love and support. So bring your gloves. It's going to be May 8th from 9 to 12 on the Dean campus. And we're going to get our hands dirty, and we're going to show these kids a whole lot of love that they really need from our community. And then one other really important thing in regards to graduation, the Dean campus has reached out to Mrs. Williams, if you are listening. The Dean kids have tried to call you, they're missing you, and they want your poem for their yearbook. So they really need you to get in touch with them. So if you could please, Miss Williams, because they do want your poem in their yearbook. And
all righty. I will definitely get in touch with them. And I was going to ask a question. If Mr. Soto or someone could email us with all of the dates that he just mentioned, that would be very helpful.
And last but not least, the one other thing that I do want to say as a thank you, I got to give it up to Anthony on this one. He's been 100% supportive of these kids. Over the years, we've had lots of superintendents and receivers and people involved. I honestly, I've always kind of been involved and had my nose in the Holyoke Public Schools and trying to do stuff for kids. But I don't think I can say I've ever had somebody so receptive of listening to these kids' voices and what's important to them. And Anthony, I can't thank you enough for the work that you've done in regards to this, because even the small minuscule things that you're supporting them, it means the world to them, and it shows, and you're giving them their pride back. And you're giving them the capability of standing up for our district to prove that we don't need to be in receivership, that we are a strong district and a strong community. And you're giving them the strength to voice that by all of your support. So I just wanted to say thank you for everything that you've done thus far. So that's it for me, guys.
Thank you, Ms. Burks. Mr. Sheehan.
Rain options, any?
You had to say that, right?
I mean, I just have to ask. I mean,
if we all just do the rain dance the day before, we should be good, right? If everybody just does a rain dance and praise. It's interesting you bring it up, because so if we do have to go inside, that means that we likely not be able to have any guests, especially at the North Campus. The Board of Health is suggesting that instead of having having it inside, that we have an alternate date, like a rain date. I know that the high school leadership is not in favor of that and thinks that. So there's going to be a meeting tomorrow, and that's probably going to be the biggest part of the conversation that the task force is going to have. Because the Board of Health is, strongly suggesting, or they were this morning, that we don't have it inside, that it be outside, and if it's raining, that we have a rain date. I had a conversation with Mahoney earlier today, and they'd much rather not change the date. So that's going to be a good conversation that's had, and I'm looking forward to the conversation and to Ms. Burks and Mahoney and what they're going to recommend collectively as a group after they have that conversation tomorrow.
So Devin, rain dates are really hard in the sense nobody ever really wants to call it. And then if they call it and it's a mistake and blah, blah, blah. So I talked to the Board of Health also in regards to what do we do if it rains? And basically it's either a rain date or it goes on in the rain. Those are the two options.
And I get that. And I know that, like, I mean, every year it's this kind of juggling thing that we've dealt with. And that's why many years ago we moved graduation from, I think, 4 o'clock to 1 o'clock, with just hoping if there was a late afternoon storm. But even if we could have, I mean, I understand that moving it inside probably isn't going to be an option. It's hard when there's no COVID at all. But the fact that we are now, we're more than a month away, and we have the ability that we have students' photos, and then we're getting new photos with the banners. Even if something virtually could be produced and pivoted to that day with just the platform party and airing it on Holyoke Media and using the virtual pictures, just something that's out there to and still allow the, I mean, I'm sure it could be amenable to the Board of Health if it was the people normally on the platform, the valedictorian, salutatory, and the class speakers, to provide something just to a camera in a setting, whether it's the Holyoke High Auditorium at Holyoke High, the Dean cafeteria, though I know there's some issues with being live at Dean unless you're in the Fifield room. So, like, let's think of some of those things. If we can think of some of those things now, if we have to make that quick switch for that Friday or that Sunday, and have to do something different, because it was this past August. I mean, it was great. Like, we were hopeful. We're like, we're going to be able to do this. And then it was not the case.
And then we got soaked.
As we all know, like, we were trying to hold umbrellas over the diploma people. And I mean, it was just, it was an unfortunate experience, especially after everything our families had gone through. So just knowing that a date probably isn't possible, if we can at least have some sort of virtual option to pivot to, and can we not bring the diplomas outside and have them get all wet again this year? But also, like, so, and to Mrs. Burks and Mr. Soto, like, I will absolutely be there on May 8th for the Dean Beautification Day and look forward to it. But I just think it's wonderful the students want to do that, and I applaud them for wanting to do that. But let's just remember, there's never had to be a Holyoke High North Beautification Day to prep for graduation. So, I mean, let's keep that in mind, that we have a commitment as a city to have that facility ready for them on June 4th, and to be ready for them. So, like, if service to the school by making your grounds and your property beautiful and to cleaning it up is wonderful, and it's a good activity. But let's just remember that, like, for graduation, like, we have a commitment to have equal areas and to have and equitable areas, that we make that commitment to have it ready for them. And it's not just the beautification. It really should be two separate events, right? I mean, no one's asked to go and beautify Roberts Field prior to graduation.
So I don't see any further questions, but in regards to the beautification, I do want to say the field right now, well, I haven't passed by, so forgive me if I'm wrong. But when I did go there, and when I did view where they would be graduating, it is nowhere near Roberts Field. If there's one area that's always been maintained, it's always been the Holyoke High side, north. The Dean side has been left in the wayside. So when I was watching where they were walking their field, it's very uneven. The grass had not been mowed. The fence is broken. The bench had probably one wooden piece to it. Was it that, Ms. Burks? And then there were a lot of branches kind of just intertwining into the fence. These kids want to graduate on their field. They want to graduate in their school. And the least that we could do is make sure that their field is just as ready as our Holyoke High North field is ready for our students. I know that we don't go to get it ready and that there's other people, but the field at Dean Tech has been left just as it is. And if I can think of it, it's been like that since probably we decided to go into the one high school, one city, one high school model. So it's been kind of, you look to the side and it's not appealing. Now, I believe they were going to paint the poles so that they actually look black, versus all paint chipped and stuff like that. So it's just a touch up of mowing the lawn, picking up the trash that has been there, and keeps accumulating, getting rid of that bench that doesn't even need to be there because obviously it's broken. Nobody can even sit on it. And fixing the fence that's broken. So when the students come in, it's kind of showing some pride into their school. So that's where, I mean, they call it the beautification. I call it equitable. Mr. I'm sorry, Mr. Soto.
I'm sorry. I appreciate you bringing that up, but you know, I mean, it's tough to make that Dean Field look, you know, it's not turf, but I can assure you, we've spent more money at the Dean campus in terms of upgrading the facility than we have at Holyoke High School in the past 3 years, for sure. We replaced they got a brand new gym floor. They have brand new lighting in the gym. We replaced the stair treads throughout the whole building. Painting, beautification, like we have done a ton of work. And I think a lot of it you have seen on when we give you the facility summer project list. Dean has been one of the schools that we've invested in over the last 5 years, or three to 4 years, especially, you know, when we started to, you know, as enrollment started to increase, when we had the STEM school and co-location, we invested a lot of resources into making that school look good. Now the parks outside, you're right. I can let you know that our school playgrounds and fields are maintained by the city's DPW department. We pay the city $75,000 a year so that they can maintain our fields. And you know, I would assume that the process is very much that they coordinate with the parks department on what rentals are there. They coordinate with the athletic department if there's games. So as many of you know, we don't have any high school games in that field. So I can see where that has slipped through the cracks, but it's not because we're not thinking about equity. It's just there hasn't been any sporting events there. But when there is a sporting event, we make a phone call to the city and let them know, and they, you know, they're very receptive to helping us out. And they, you know, when that field is being used, you can see when you drive by, there's this new sport out there that I see being played, spike ball and kickball, and they do other things. The city makes sure that, you know, that field gets maintained properly. It's just that we haven't had, you know, athletic events or rental events in that space. And you know, but I can tell you firsthand as being the leader of the facilities department that we have invested more money into Dean and making sure that we upkeep that building, mainly on the interior. So I agree with you. The Roberts Field is beautiful. I mean, that was I don't even know how much funding that was for the city to get turf there and to put the track there and to do that. But it's beautiful. It's definitely something. It's a jewel of the city, and that Dean Field is not that. But I hear you, and we'll make sure that we work with the city's park department to make sure that that's addressed in the future. And pretty much everything that you talked about will get taken care of before the graduation. The fence is already repaired. The trees, if you drive by there right now, there's we had a tree service go out. So all of the overgrown branches and stuff that was going through the fence, it's cut and it's there and it's waiting to get picked up. But we're definitely aware of that. And this isn't just a one-day thing. This is just highlights that we got to do a better job maintaining that field and working with the city to make sure that that's happening.
Thank you. Before I had seen Ms. Feliciano Sims' hand up before the other two showed up, but then it went down, so I wasn't sure if she still had a comment or a question.
Yeah, no, I was just asking for the beautification. Is there anything you're gonna post that on the HPS Facebook page? And then is there anything that the community could bring to help out, like extra rakes or anything like that? I was just curious.
We'll make sure that we communicate it on all of our social media platforms, on our website. We'll likely do a call to the high school, to high school families. But if you have any other recommendations, once you see the communication go out, if you think that there's other platforms we should be looking into, please let me know.
Perfect, thank you.
Mayor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just two things. I want to compliment what has been done in terms of the fence and the vines and shrubbery that we're hanging. It looks a whole lot better in terms of being able to see into the area. And I'm not sure the total fencing has been repaired. I know there were still some gaps. I thought maybe they were done in the last day or so, but up until the vines being removed have made a tremendous difference in terms of appearance. I want to let you know I am sending out an email right now to the superintendent of DPW and the lead person in terms of the parks, asking them to put mowing and correcting the Dean Fields on a regular schedule to improve the overall appearance. So I'm hoping that, and the graduation was June 4th, if I'm heard correct. So I'm going to try to make sure that they're knowing that and try to make sure that they're trying to keep up. Obviously, they are, like many others, stressed out in terms of what they're being asked to do. But let me see what we can do there. And again, I think the vine removal has done a lot. I don't know if what was left has been removed, but if they could take what they already chopped down and move it out, I think that would also leave a better image. So, but I want to compliment you on what has been done so far. Thanks.
It will be. Thank you, Mayor Murphy. Yeah, what's been cut down will be removed, and the goal posts have also been painted already as well. So again, some of the work that Ms. LaFave mentioned has been done, but we got to make sure we do that regularly, I think is the point, and I hear you loud and clear.
Thank you, Mayor Murphy. And Ms. Burks.
So one of the points that I wanted, that's clearly been made is that park is actually owned by the city, and it's the city's responsibility, and that hasn't been happening on the city side of making sure that park is taken care of. I know the DPW is short-staffed and all of those great things, but these kids are a priority. If something was looking that funky up at the North Campus, that would have been taken care of. We know that there's litigation going on in regards to the field, the track up at the North Campus, and that's something that's actively being pursued by the city. But somehow this school and these grounds are just getting neglected, and that's not right. We're asking these kids had a really bad reputation. That school had a bad reputation for a really long time. And we've got this group of kids and this group of staff that are rebuilding, and they're building off the momentum to make that school great again. And they're asking us as a community to come out and support that so they can continue going upward. And I think that, the city needs to step it up on the city side for making sure that those grounds are taken care of. when we're talking about the vines and a lot of the work that's currently been done, everybody needs to know that's due to Brian Harris and his team, because Anthony asked them to step up and start making stuff happen for these kids so that these kids could see that we're buying into them 100%, just like they're buying into their school. So Anthony gave the order to have that started, and Brian Harris and his team didn't wait for the city, didn't wait for DPW, didn't wait for people to show up eventually. They just took it into their own hands and started getting the work done. You know, they called in contractors to come in and cut down trees and to do all of this work. This is stuff that the HPS is doing that we're not getting support from the city. But heaven forbid, like, you know, city council meetings would be quick to call us out that we're not doing our part. In reality, you know, the schools are the ones that are stepping up to do the job that the city's supposed to be doing and neglecting to do. So again, you know, people need to be aware of the key players in this game making stuff happen. Brian Harris and his team went down and just started cleaning and going through everything. When Anthony says that some parts of Dean have not been neglected and have gotten more work than other schools, Anthony, I love you, and that's true. But over a long period, you know, that was the school that was neglected. All of our other schools were getting finances. And yes, in the last couple of years, we started putting money back into Dean. But everybody thought, hey, Dean's the newest building. It doesn't need as much. And we let it lapse. We closed amazing shops that we need to start working on getting back open. Like, there's a bigger picture with Dean. We are propelling Dean and they are moving forward. You know, they have the staff, they have the students that want it, that need it, and are striving for it. But in all honesty, yes, the gym's being painted. There's been new lighting and a lot of work has been done. But again, previous to that, we neglected that building. And before we get into a spot that, you know, we have to do even more, and we're looking at needing another school, which we all know how that went over. We need to start really taking care of our buildings. And this is a beautiful building and it's a beautiful school. And I'm hoping our current mayor will light some fires to make sure that we can get this taken care of for these kids and these staff and let them continue their momentum of changing their story of their school.
Thank you, Ms. Burks. You said some really kind words about me, but really the people that deserve the credit for this work happening is, you know, is the students voicing, you know, what they wanted, the building principals and yourself for advocating. I mean, I remember how upset you were when you called me and how passionate you were about wanting, you know, the students wanting this. So really the students made this happen. You know, I have the benefit of having some really good employees that are responsive to our students' need, but they were the ones that spoke up, and we made all of those good things happen because they spoke up and because you advocated for them. So they're the ones that deserve the credit. And then, you know, where I feel like we needed to do a better job is, you know, I drive by Dean every single morning. And I didn't think twice about, you know, I guess I was just used to the appearance the way it was, but I don't want to sit here and say that the city's not doing what they need to do, because like we probably should have did a better job telling them that we needed that, right? I think that the DPW has been a great partner. I don't think that we've ever called them and asked them for something and they said no. So shame on us for not asking, but I don't want them to take the full blame for it being the way it is. We probably should have been more vocal, just like the students were vocal in expressing it, and we were able to make some stuff happen pretty quickly. So we need to do that a little better, and we can do that through our students and our leadership at Dean. You know, Al's never shy. I think I got a 10-page email from him on things he wants done at at the Dean campus for next year, and we're able to accommodate most of it. So really people advocating for what their needs are is how things get done. And we haven't advocated enough for to the city for the field to get maintained a little better. So we will.
There are no further questions, but thank you, Mr. Soto. Thank you.
This next section is us just providing an update in terms of all the health metrics. So many of you know that on April 8th, after being in the yellow for 6 weeks straight, we did go into the red. I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, I'm not a fortune teller, or I can't predict why, but I would imagine, you know, a lot of people are just fatigued with all of these restrictions and the weather getting nicer, and, you know, St. Patrick's Day, and people just getting fatigued. We started to see a rise in the cases. And the following slide does have that information in more detail. So, and we've been in the red ever since. So we get an update every Thursday from the state. So we've been in the red since April 8th, after 6 weeks in a row of being in the yellow. All of our HPS counselors are being offered youth mental health first aid training. It's offered through the Healthy Schools grant program in collaboration with DESE and with Pinnacle Partners. Nurses participated in this training earlier this year. And our nurses, our nurses are also conducting symptomatic rapid testing if students become symptomatic, or if students, if a pool test ends up coming positive. We did start our pool testing on April 5th at the North Campus, at Dean, and at Transitions. The nice thing about that is we are, I want to commend Marianne Courier, Cynthia, and Alessandra Graziani, who is kind of leading this effort, but really thinking outside the box. We're utilizing our nursing students over in the Dean program to help with this process. The board, they're not administering any swabs or dealing with the test themselves, but we utilize one of our own vans, and we have a partner that works with them, and we drive to the different sites, and the students help set up. If a student comes in to get tested, they take down their information. Most of the students can self-administer a swab themselves, but if they can't, that's where the vendor steps in and does that process. The students aren't involved with that. And the state was pretty clear with us that they didn't want the students to be involved with that. But in fact, they didn't want the students to be involved with anything regarding this pool testing program. But they also didn't say that we couldn't do it. And you know, we were really passionate about creating opportunities for our nursing students, and they all wanted to do it. So I'm happy that we were able to accommodate that and do it in a safe way, and get our students some real life experience and help us with this pool testing program as well. As many of you know, we had our second clinic. It was held at this past weekend at Dean, and that's where most of the people that got the first vaccination ended up getting their second one. So we that's about 600 people. Devin Sheehan was able to go to the first session that we had. I went down there with him, and it was just amazing to see, you know, the Holyoke Health Center and our staff and everybody just coming through, partnering and pulling this off for our staff. I thought it was really amazing. So the next slide here is a slide that you're similar. So you can see that starting on April 8th, we went from 30 average daily incident rate of 37.1 to 44.6. And then the week of April 15th, that went up to 49. And our percent positivity rate went up from 4.33% on April 1st all the way to 5.59%. So again, we continue to get regular updates. We're monitoring this closely. And we all know that, you know, we have a very strict policy and process in terms of contact tracing, and we've been able to do a good job minimizing the spread. As many of you know, right before vacation, we had an incident at McMahon, and you know, we took no chances, and we were able to. We unfortunately, it was very last minute. We got phone calls late at night and didn't have an opportunity to follow our process, which is, you know, we have a goal of staying in school, right? Now that we're open and we're in person, we want to stay that way. So that means that sometimes we have to err on the side of caution, and with the issue at McMahon, that's what we did. You know, there could be scenarios like that, but we need to remain vigilant and continue to enforce and our process, and to properly investigate each case and to make decisions on a case-by-case basis. So since the school year began on April 14th, we've had about 507 cumulative cases, and that's through March 31st. 379 remote students and 36 in-person students. And then we've had 19 remote staff and 73 in-person staff. Not necessarily, this doesn't mean that there's school transmission and it's being spread through the school. Most of our cases, you know, it's happening out in the community and then being brought in. But our process is such that when that happens, we're able to prevent school transmission and widespread. Total cases by month, we had about 3 cases in September, 24 cases in October, 74 cases in November, 123 in December. January was 136, February 74, and March 73. So far in April, through the 21st, we've had 75 cases, 64 students, 37 of them were remote and 27 in person. And then 10 staff, which were all in person. Any questions on that?
I don't see any questions.
That concludes our report for today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Soto, for your report. Let me just look real quickly at my agenda here. I'm sorry. Is there any new business? I don't see any.
I just have a quick thing to say if you're done.
Go ahead, Miss Tensley Williams.
Okay, I have good news. Finally, I did get in touch with the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. I spoke with them today because they had shut down. And I will be able to publish my poems. I've written 8. And so I got to send them in book form, and they said that they will copyright them for me. And that's about 8 weeks from now. Okay, so I knew you guys would want to know. Thank you, sweetheart. I love y'all.
Thank you so much, Miss Tensley Williams. So you just beat it to the announcements, but that's good to hear. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're very proud of you.
Thank you very much.
So no new business, no ongoing business. I do see Ms. Burke's hands up, but I believe you're for announcements, correct? So we'll move to announcements.
Okay, because I have 2 more, just because I don't shut up.
We can't even hear you.
Sorry. So if anybody has any connections to any seniors through Opportunity Academy, Holyoke High School, or Dean, June Lavelle, the great June Lavelle from Holyoke Public Schools, has started a Facebook page called the Holyoke Adopt a Senior page. So basically students are putting their bios out and people from the city are adopting a senior. And it means you're sending them congratulations. People send gifts. People do all types of things. They rent box trucks with kids' pictures on it. You do whatever you can to adopt your senior. Small stuff, large stuff, but it's having somebody other than their family members in their court and cheering them along. It's an amazing page. It's really cool to see the bios of these kids and what their plans are. And basically it's just to support them. So if you have any connections to any seniors, please let them know that this page is up and running on Facebook, and we would love to have them on. And to all of our school committee members and general public, we would love for you to adopt our seniors. They need the support and they need the love. It's been a rough year. This was something that was totally amazing last year, and we're hoping to reproduce it. It's just for Holyoke though, Holyoke students only. So any student you adopt is a Holyoke Public Schools student. And then the other announcement that I had, Jesus Pereira, who runs our Veterans Administration, is trying to get together the $4,000 for his aviation plan to get kids to learn how to fly. I know a bunch of us have connections, and, you know, I don't know if there's like some COVID money laying around, Anthony or Mayor Murphy, but, you know, it's a great way to spend some of the funds that are available, is being able to give these kids the opportunity of learning how to fly. Jesus Pereira has been absolutely amazing when it comes to this city and looking for opportunities. But this is a great opportunity for kids. And he's trying to raise the $4,000 to get this program started. So if anybody can support, I know there's a Facebook page, and he's trying to reach out to as many people as possible to kind of get this off the ground and get it flying. So if anybody could support that, that'd be great. But those are two things that I hope that people will jump in and get involved in, just because they're important to our kids. Thank you.
Ms. Burks?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm all in. I was in the Air Force, so I'm good to go. I'll help out financially.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome, sweetheart.
Mr. Sheehan?
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, to Mrs. Burke saying that, if there's any opportunity, we could even look at Perkins money and expanding some of our offerings at Dean around that, similar to how Westfield did, though. I will tell you, I would never be the one volunteering to fly the plane. I barely like to get into the plane half the time. What I was going to say, I was going to remind the community that many people probably already know, they get the alerts that Holyoke offers vaccine clinics. Pretty often reach out to the senior center to reserve it. It's 322-5625, as well as there's so many other providers of COVID vaccines available. And I would encourage anyone that's eligible, including many of our students as well, to sign up for that, just because it's, I mean, if you are able to get the vaccine, that's how we move forward. And that's how we stay vigilant with that and stay safe, wearing our masks, getting the vaccine. And being advocates for that. That process is how we're going to move forward and get back to some sort of normal, so we don't have to discuss alternative graduation programs and being on your computer in the classroom and all those types of things. So just remember that and stay vigilant with that, and keep wearing the mask, because, I mean, I was texting Anthony the day before the red numbers came out saying, are we going in the red tomorrow? And it was just, it's we see it and people can't forget that we need to stay vigilant with it. So, and everyone should have heard already that the Memorial Day celebrations have gone virtual this year. So hopefully people receive that and can join in on that as well in May. I know we have a meeting on the 16th, but just thought I'd put it out there.
Thank you, Mr. Sheehan. Mayor Murphy.
Thank you. And just a couple of other things in terms of vaccines. Obviously, the senior center, any seniors that are high school seniors, not the seniors that are 18 or older can't come to that and are certainly welcome. And we are also working with the Holyoke Health Center, and very shortly there are going to be mobile van vaccines. I know there's going to be, right now it looks like the first week in May it could be at Veterans Park. We are also looking to do some in Churchill and the Flats, and we're looking at other locations. But the Holyoke Health Center is working, and Sean Gonzalez is working with them, and we're trying to line up various locations. And they will have, what they're looking at doing is, I think, 4 different locations, 2 days or maybe 3 days, and each week then go to a new location and then come back. So it's an 8-week program so that people can get the first vaccine and then come back and get the second one 4 weeks later. So that is just getting going, and it looks like it's going to be starting in that first week in May. So, and again, I would encourage everybody that is eligible to please do what you can and take the vaccine and try to make sure that you're protecting your friends and your family and all the people that you're in contact with. As Committeeman Sheehan has said, we're all in this together, and let's try to make sure that we take care of each other, both ourselves, making sure no one else gets sick, and then making sure we take care of our friends and our family. So if there's others that come by, I'll make sure you're all aware of them. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Murphy. Real quickly, Mr. Soto, the district parent advisory council. I did see on the Facebook that it was showing like if it was for last week, but last week was vacation week. So is it this week?
I don't have it on my calendar, so I'll have to follow up and make sure that we clarify. Okay. I was at one maybe 3 weeks ago, but let me get back to you on that, please.
And the same with the LPAC, and I'll follow up with Ms. Courier. Just want to make sure that we always have the dates out there for the special education, the LPAC, and the district parent advisory. Just so that other members that would want to attend and kind of hear what's happening. It's good to know, good information to know. And before I'm even going to ask for a motion to adjourn, we've got to go back because we didn't discuss the school calendar. I know it says information there because obviously it's just the school calendar, but I do want to make sure that we are acknowledging that we did receive public comment from some parents in regards to the concerns. So kind of just, do people have any questions or comments in respects to the upcoming school calendar? Ms. Burks.
Oh, I do. So I've been getting a lot of complaints, not only from staff members, but also from families. The 2 main complaints are, A, we're starting way too early in August. If you look at people that are working the summer school that usually runs the entire month of July, these people are not going to get a break, A. And then B, the amount of time that they're out, I think it's like 3 weeks during Christmas vacation, just seems like totally absurd. So I think we really need to look at that. The feedback has been negative all the way around. I've gotten no positive feedback. And I'm really concerned about our staff not being able to have any kind of break with us starting so early. And I'm really worried about the kids being out for 3 weeks straight in the month of December into January for that Christmas break. That seems like way too long. These kids have been out of school for so long, and I know it's pre-planning going into next year, but that calendar is all the way messed up. Like, we need to really, really relook at that. because the complaints are wild. And I just want to make sure that people's voices are really being heard. But again, those two things are really concerning, starting so early in August, and how long that Christmas break is. We really need to reevaluate that.
Yeah, I mean, I did hear some feedback. We went through our normal process. We solicited feedback from principals. We solicited feedback from the teacher advisory group, and after all of that feedback, we one of the main reasons we wanted to start earlier is to address some of the summer slide that we normally get, and to try to be creative and get students back in person a little bit sooner. It is 4 days sooner than we would have normally done it. It's not, I get it, and we're going to work with any staff that have any pre-scheduled vacations or anything like that. We'll work with them as we normally do any summer where that's the case. But this decision was made, on behalf of kids. There's some kids that haven't stepped foot in school since a year and 5 months. And we really think that 4 days before that big break is better than 4 days at the end of the year.
But to that argument, Anthony, then why are we doing 3 weeks in the month of December into January? Because that defeats that argument. Mm-hmm. We're taking kids out for 3 weeks, which is just ridiculous. When we can give them, it's not even just staff, if you have students that are in school, especially like even some of our special ed students that go to summer programming, they're going to be in programming straight through the month of July. And then they're coming back even earlier too. So there's no break for those students either. And I understand that we need kids in the classroom, mm-hmm. but a 3 week break in that December to January it's absurd.
It's absurd. 2 school weeks, not 3 school weeks. Yeah, I know you're counting the weekends, but part of that is us wanting to also observe 3 Kings Day. We talk about equity. Many of our families travel during that time and really celebrate the 3 Kings Day. And those are some of the conversations that we've had and things that we thought about. And we felt strongly that, starting 4 days earlier was going to get kids back in school sooner than normally. And, I've had conversations with Pete about this as well, the union president, when he raised it. This isn't something that we plan on, making a habit of. Like, this is really in response to the pandemic. So there's kids that haven't been in school come August for 1 year and 5 months, and we really want to get them into school sooner. I appreciate the feedback. We'll definitely continue to have conversations. And I know that next year, honestly, this I feel like was a rookie mistake on my part, thinking that, and I'm not speaking negatively of anybody, but I thought, in my rookie self, I thought that going to tag and getting feedback on the calendar was representative of getting feedback from all teachers. And that is definitely something that I want to do differently next year. I think that we need to have these conversations a lot earlier next year. So we'd like to start that process in January, and solicit feedback from TAG, have them go back to the teachers and get feedback. But this decision was primarily based on with students at the forefront of it. Getting students back in school was our main priority, and having more days before that break to be able to get acclimated back to in-person learning and to address some of the learning loss, and for students to be able to come back sooner than they would have in under the normal schedule.
I have Mr. Sheehan.
Yeah, I have a question just regarding the December, January days. Yeah. Is there any concern similar to how the state, and I don't know in which phase of the administration they did this, but they had originally set up that class of 2022 Mcas dates during January to take the Mcas, and it was right after we were returned, and then that ended getting pushed back. But as we transition back to a more regular school year, is there a concern that they're going to use that original model for test administration for Mcas and use that January model for those students that I think it was class of 2022 that would have tested in January, and then the normal open window for access that's usually like the day you get back in January to the first Monday in February? I mean, is there concern that we'd be losing a week of the ability to administer in any of that?
No concern as of right now, no.
Okay.
No further questions or comments? If we could bring this up again for the next school committee meeting, and see if any other school committee members, or we get more feedback from the public, families, so that way we can hear them. Okay, so there's nothing further. I want to thank everyone this evening. Welcome Mayor Murphy to your first school committee meeting as the chair. Because you are the chair. You keep saying Madam Chair, but I'm the vice chair.
Well, you're much more in charge than I am.
That you've got right.
I know that. And thank you for welcoming me. I appreciate it. I will try to do my best to make as many as I can. And, when I have something to offer, I'll offer. And I will try to make sure that the city services are being provided to the best of our ability. So if there are concerns, let me know. I will try to address them. Sometimes I'll give you the wrong answer, but I'll always try to address it. So you have
Sounds
that.
Great.
Have my word on that.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So with that being said, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I got a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, second. So motion second. Ms. LaFond, roll call, please.
Yes, ma'am. Let's see if I can get it right this time. Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Ms. LaFave.
Yes.
Mr. Sheehan.
Yes.
Ms. Brunel. Ms. Tensley Williams.
Yes.
Mrs. Burks.
Yes.
Ms. Feliciano Sims.
Yes.
Mr. Wellahan.
Yes.
And Mr. Cushane.
Yes.
Great. So motion passes unanimously. We end our meeting at 8:43 p.m. Again, thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next month.
Night.
Good night.